The most shocking trade in NBA history. Luka Doncic is a Laker. Anthony Davis is a Maverick. And somehow LeBron James had no idea this was all happening. Did the Lakers just steal the future, or is there more to this than meets the eye? I'm going to ask Matt and Haize all of that, their reactions. We're going to hear from Locked On Lakers, Locked On Mavericks, ahead today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a special Sunday edition of Locked On NBA, and Matt Moore's got the Sunday Reds on. Oh, so does Haize. You got some red on as well. You guys are ready for the final day. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets, and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And there is no bigger story this season than the trade that just went down between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Dallas Mavericks. With me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. We've got Matt Moore, and from the Locked On Bulls podcast, we've got Haize. So, Matt, Haize, huge trade. Lakers get Luka. They get Maxi Kleber. They get Markieff Morris. Mavericks get Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 Lakers first-round pick. The Jazz sneak in there and grab Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 second-round picks. Haize, you've said on this show multiple times that the Lakers would finally be forced to act like a normal franchise. Well, this doesn't feel like normal franchise stuff. Haize, what was the most shocking aspect of this deal for you?
Everything, every single thing about it, the deal itself. Like I don't think I've ever been caught off by a trade happening, not just because it was the Lakers, but because it was the Lakers and Luka. And I hadn't heard any rumblings of Luka even being moved. I don't think anybody had that on their radar. So the fact that the Dallas Mavericks moved a player that's 25 years old and is in MVP consideration when he's healthy, it's shocking. It completely caught me off guard.
Yeah, no, like Doug's like, huge trade. Doug, like, a huge trade is like, oh man, the Lakers traded 3 rotation players and added Rui Hachimura. Like, a huge trade is like, the Nuggets got Aaron Gordon. Huge trade in the NBA. I don't know what to call this. Other than, on one side, franchise suicide, and on the other hand, exactly what always happens with the Lakers. Lakers exceptionalism will never die.
All right, well, here's how I think we're going to do this. Let's look at it from the Lakers side, then we're going to look at it from the Mavericks side, and then we'll talk about some of the larger implications for the rest of the season. So first, let's hear from the Kamenetsky brothers of Locked On Lakers with their take.
This is, I'm not even going to say like one of the most stunning trades in NBA history that I can think of. In like sports,
my immediate reaction is, what does Dallas know? Like what would lead Dallas to do this? Like if the Lakers had approached Dallas about it first, that would at least follow a certain logic. Anthony Davis is a better two-way player than Luka Doncic, but Luka is considered across, NBA punditry, I think NBA circles, the better overall player.
If he stays in shape, if he takes care of his body, if he does like the Lakers went backwards with in their sort of generational clock, got a 25-year-old that you can now build stuff around and can go forward with this guy knowing he's your centerpiece. Is there risk? Sure. Do you get a chance to get a 25-year-old all-NBA performer most days of the week? You do not.
Okay, so was this a panic move from the Lakers to ensure life after LeBron, or do you think it's calculated genius even in the short term, even for this season, Matt?
I mean, there's no genius here. There's no genius. Oh, man, we're going to think outside the box. What if we traded for Luka Doncic? Like, it's just Rob Pelinka's walking along. He's just walking along, blithely oblivious. His franchise stars are frustrated with him because he won't trade 2 first-rounders. It's okay. It's okay, though, because ownership has his back, and ownership hates clutch sports, so it's fine. And then he trips. He trips and he falls and he smacks his face. into the sidewalk. But as he gets up, he realizes that now his face is covered in gold and he has the ability to just turn things into gold magically. That's what happened here. Like, this just fell into the Lakers' lap. It just fell into the Lakers' lap. As far as it being like short-term, long-term, it's just the minute that you like Nico Harrison talked about this today, about how he brought it up to him at an in-person at a game. And Pelinka laughed it off like, haha, good one. And then he was like, well, no, Rick, really? What if we traded you Luka Doncic? The minute the man laughed you off because it was so preposterous, you should have rethought this. So the Lakers, it's just like, there's no question. Like, this is what you do. Like, oh, you want to trade anyone on your roster for Luka Doncic? Yes, immediately. Yes, sir. Absolutely. It's great for this season. If they can make one or two moves in the next 5 days, they have a chance of being able to pull back into championship contention because Luka's that good. They need to make those moves. They need to add, what's it called? A center of any kind whatsoever. But like, you do that. Long term, though, you have Luka Doncic for the rest of his career. You have Luka Doncic. You're set. The future of the Lakers franchise, they don't have to worry about the picks they owe. They don't have to worry about any of this stuff. They got Luka Doncic. That's it.
Okay, but what about the risk, Haize? There's an injury risk. There's got to be reasons why Nico Harrison decided to move on from Luka Doncic. Haize, there's got to be some risk here, right?
Yeah, there's definitely some risk here, but here's what I'll say. Like, I think that you already were at a risk of LeBron leaving. Whenever that happens, whether it's retirement, whatever it is, LeBron leaving, right? I think that you're in a better place now to listen. You got to at least have a ticket, and Luka Doncic is their ticket to the party. There's sure injury risk. There's risk that well, if Luka doesn't re-sign, there's all type of risk. Make no mistake about it. But I think the Lakers again are at the place as a franchise where they're willing to take on any and all risks just so they can have a star there. Because as we've said all before, people are going to want to sign with the Lakers. That's even if they didn't have Luka. And now, because you've given up Max Christie, AD, and a first-round pick, you still got Austin Reeves there. You still got some role players there. There's risk, but I think most GMs would be willing to take this risk if it meant having Luka Doncic at 25 potentially for the next decade.
Unless so you mentioned LeBron there. Reported.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Hang on. Unless Luka killed a man in front of you, not even like if you walked in and he's standing over a body with a knife, you'd still be like, yeah, I'm probably still not trading him. Unless you saw him plunge the knife into someone, you cannot trade him. I don't care if he shows up at 700 pounds. I don't care if his leg fell off and he was like, I no longer have a leg, but I think I can make it work. You do not trade him. This is the risk factor. It's Luka Doncic, man. I've been as critical as that dude as anybody, but this is like the idea of it being like, well, there's risk here. No, it's Luka. Sorry, go ahead, Doug.
Okay, you mentioned LeBron. Haize reportedly did not know anything about this deal, but he does intend to stay with the Lakers beyond the deadline. Of course, he has a no trade clause. What does all of this say about the relationship between LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers, Matt?
So LeBron got very upset at a report last night that he had grown frustrated with AD. And then the report comes out today that from Chris Haize that he's not going to waive his no trade and he wants to remain. He's going to remain with the Lakers. So like he's made peace with this. The question about like whether he knew or not, we're never going to know. Every time the team has made a move like this with LeBron on, it's always like LeBron had no idea. And I just don't know if you can really plausibly believe that. What I will say, though, is Anthony Davis is a clutch client, and sending him out from a championship contention, sending him away from the Lakers, given the tension between the front office and ownership and Clutch Sports, that to me is interesting, and we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I don't know what this says about the relationship with LeBron and the Lakers, because I think like the Lakers owe it to themselves to try to have a future regardless, right? I think that's all what we've kind of agreed on, and this is what this does. It's not bad for LeBron. Like, you get a young player with you that's 25 years old that now that he is committed to staying, great, right? But I think either way for the Lakers that they had to do something, or they wanted to do something. I didn't think that they were going to be able to get it done, but they wanted to do something to try to solidify a future there. And that's what this move does. And, LeBron staying and being locked in is great for him. Cool. But I think the bigger picture here is that the Lakers did what they needed to do for their franchise to have some hope.
Do either of you think that Anthony Davis's very public request for big help to move him to power forward, to go out and acquire a center? I mean, he did that with Shams Charania on television. Do you think any of that played a part in him being traded?
I don't think so. I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think this literally was just like, hey, we'll give you Luka Doncic for AD, and that was pretty much the end of it.
All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, we're going to talk about this from the Mavericks perspective. People stunned that they would move on from Luka Doncic, and that includes Locked On Mavericks. We'll hear from them on the other side. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in awarded winnings, Prize Picks makes it easy and fun to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Here's how it works. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you could wind up with 1,000 times your cash. This weekend, I'm looking at the board. I think I'm selecting more for Jason Tatum on points, more for Trae Young on assists. The best part, Prize Picks keeps it simple. You can set your lineup in less than 60 seconds, and their fast, secure withdrawals mean you get paid quickly when you win. Plus, their Taco Tuesday promo gives you discounted player projections for even more value. Check out the promos tab to tail any of the super sweet Millie winners, big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. All right, let's shift gears to the Mavericks perspective on this and hear from Locked On Mavericks, a sullen Locked On Mavericks podcast.
I don't think I've ever had a sports moment where, I was just truly, I didn't know. I mean, you called me, we're on the phone.
Silence.
It's just like, this isn't real. I mean, I was just like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think.
It's absolutely the craziest NBA trade of all time. It is the craziest trade in Mavericks history, for sure. This is a trade that fundamentally changes the entire outlook of the franchise of the Dallas Mavericks. This is a trade that sends the organization in a complete different other direction. This is a trade that completely alters everything that you're doing as a franchise, as a team, as an organization, as a city, as a fan base, as everything. Look at what the 76ers are going through with Joel Embiid. And if the Dallas Mavericks thought that Luka Doncic is going to be that, do you want to go through that? Do you want to be stuck in that situation? Because there's no other scenario that I can imagine Nico just trading Luka like that and getting the first package that comes to his door.
So they're obviously grasping at straws trying to figure out why this happened, and specifically why the Mavs wouldn't start a bidding war, why this was one team within what looks like a month's time of negotiating, but probably maybe even less. Matt, why didn't they start a bidding war?
Selection of texts that I received last night from people around the league. How could they not have made a single other phone call? How come nobody knew about this? Why didn't they get an answer? And what was the other one here? Oh, this is my favorite one. Of course, this is what happened. This is just what happens with the Lakers. I think the thing I've come to kind of hear over the last 12 hours is that Nico Harrison really believed that AD is the guy. He believes it. They have a relationship, and he thinks AD is the guy. He genuinely believes Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis is a championship core, and truly believe that Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic is not. That's the explanation for it. If you're asking me to rationalize that decision making, I cannot, because it is guano insane, Haize.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to wrap my head around it as well. This is, I I don't understand this from the Mavericks perspective at all, as far as not starting a bidding war, not seeing what you can get, because every team in the league would have tried to call and make some type of offer to see if they can get Luka Doncic off of your books if you had them available. I just don't understand that logic part of it. Like, I get that thinking that AD and Kyrie could be a championship core, cool, but like, who's to say that you couldn't have got something offered better? Who's to say that somebody couldn't have offered you something that you weren't expecting, just like nobody expected this deal to even be on the table and offered? This is like me getting a unknown call and picking it up, and it's Rihanna calling me asking to take me out on a date. That's what this feels like.
It can happen.
I have no idea. I mean, hey, I hope it does.
Dream big, Haize. Doug, if the Mavericks called and were like, we'll give you Luka Doncic, what is not on the table for the Charlotte Hornets?
Nothing. Well, I think a lot of takeaways from a lot of teams like the Hornets should be that no one is safe. Like, there's no one, particularly, I guess, if you're dealing with irrational GMs, like, no one's safe. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think that any pick or any player on the Charlotte Hornets would be safe in that scenario. And I think that's what makes this the most shocking. Here's a question that I have that you touched on a little bit, Matt. Which general manager should be the most mad that they weren't called? And I'll also throw this in there, or that this deal got done at all, because it's sort of, I feel like we operated for so long on like superstar equals 4 first-round picks, probably even more. And now this just completely ruins any idea of what the market should be for these types of moves. Which general manager should be the most mad right now, Matt?
Rudy Gobert got 4. DeJounte Murray got 5. Mikal Bridges got 5. Luka Doncic got 1 pick, and they sent out a second rounder. That's my favorite detail of this, by the way. The Mavs had to include a second rounder to make this work. The most mad, I think, would probably have to be a tie between Houston and the Thunder. Houston, at least you could be like, you don't want him in division. Okay. All right, maybe. But if you're doing this, why are you not starting over? The Thunder could have been like, hey, we'll give you Jalen Williams and 4 first-round picks and like whatever else, right? If you push for Chet, they probably have to say yes. They don't want to, but they probably have to say yes. Like, you could have gotten Chet Holmgren and picks. You could have gotten Jalen Williams and picks. That to me is where this starts, is how do you do this deal and not talk to San Antonio? How do you not develop a market? Just take a couple days. The deadline's in a week here. It's not like teams are going to back away from the table for Luka. There's no chance of that happening. To do this is an unparalleled amount of stupidity and arrogance. I have never seen this, which to me makes me believe that no person is better suited for the future job as GM of the Los Angeles Lakers than Nico Harrison. Haize?
No, I agree. Like, there's the level of craziness here is just, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense to not take other offers. It makes no sense to not hear from other teams. None of that makes sense in a case like this. Everybody's going to make an offer, their best offer. And to both your points, like, I don't think any team says no to whatever you ask from them. Maybe a very few select teams, you could ask for something. They're like, okay, no, not on that. We're not giving you Shea for Luka. But other than that, like, I think you can get almost anything you want for Luka Doncic. Why only narrow yourself to just a conversation with the Lakers for just AD and just 1 first-round pick? You better, I mean, let's. What's the chances of this actually working?
I would put those at pretty low. And I hear everything that you're saying, and I'm just going to devil's advocate this a little bit from the Mavericks perspective and say, if you are worried about Luka's conditioning, if you've had enough of it and you feel like it's contributing to the injuries, again, I'm just devil's advocating it. I'm steel manning your arguments here. If you are worried about that, and maybe you even have some concerns, this is what Locked On Mavericks talked about on their podcast. If you do have some concerns about even Luka's like long-term wanting to be in the league, pulling an Andrew Luck and saying, look, injuries and I've done a lot, I've scored a lot, I've been to a finals, I'm good, I'm out. If you are concerned about all of that, and you know that there is this other irrational actor in LA that wants to win now, and you have a relationship with a player there in AD, and you say, all right, I'm going to make that move now before we have to deal with this supermax deal that we have to possibly give Luka Doncic. We get to avoid all of the drama. We get to avoid all of the supermax implications, and we just get this deal done now. It's not messy, clean break, boom, bam. What do you think about that?
It's horrendous. It's nightmarish.
I tried. I did my best.
It's a good try, Doug, but like,
amazing try. I got to commend you for you put more thought into it than Nico Harrison did.
So yeah, there you go. Like if you call the Cavaliers right now, and the Cavaliers have the best record in the NBA. They have the best record in the league. Like they are legit title contenders. If you called them up and were like, we'll give you Luka Doncic for Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, they have to think about it. If you called and said, we'll do it for Donovan Mitchell and 3 firsts, they're like, yes, absolutely. Let's call it in. If you say, we'll do it for Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, done. Like, that's the level we're talking about here. The number of players that teams would not trade for Luka Doncic is got to be on one hand. And the number of assets, like, here's the big, this is the best question because the future is always the best, right? Like, the number one pick could be anything. It could even be Luka Doncic. Like, if you waited until the draft and you did this and you traded and you offered if you offered Luka Doncic for whoever winds up with the number one pick for Cooper Flag, they say yes. That's nuts. Yeah. The only players you could say that would turn this down, the Nuggets would say no for Jokic. I think the Bucks say no for Giannis. Wembanyama. Shea, but even then, like, I don't know, man. Presti, depends on what you want. Like, maybe? I don't know that Presti would absolutely say no. So, like, that's the thing. It's just like I don't care. Again, he's 26. He's going to reach that point where he's like, God, I'm tired of being hurt, and I'm tired of not being in shape, and I'm tired of the disrespect. He's going to go to LA now, and he's going to get a better chef, I guess. I'm sure he's got one now, but like a better chef and a better training staff, and he's going to get serious, and he's going to be motivated, and he's going to win 3 titles with the Lakers. And the Mavericks are going to have to watch all of that. And that sucks for I am heartbroken for Mavericks fans, and those fans have called me every name under the sun in the last year. And I'm heartbroken for their fans, Haize. This sucks for them.
Yeah, Haize, I want to piggyback on that. The fan aspect of this. You had video of fans in front of the arena just like lamenting, tearing clothes, gnashing teeth at the idea that their beloved Luka Doncic was gone. And then contrast that with the press conference that we just saw from Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd. I'll give you a quote from this press conference from Nico. The future to me is 3 to 4. He's talking about doing this for the future of the franchise. And he says, quote, the future to me is 3 to 4 years from now. The future is 10 years from now. They'll probably bury me and J Kidd by then, or we'll bury ourselves, unquote. Haize, you saw that press conference. How should fans react to that?
They should be getting the shovels, because just go ahead and bury them now. Because it's a level of complete unawareness to just how shocking this is and just how much this does not make sense. Like, and the confidence that he has in this deal, like, I hope that it works out, because he's so confident in it. The vibe that I got from that, it's like, okay, cool. I hope that it does, because if it doesn't, and like to Matt's point, Luka goes on and wins. It doesn't even take 3 titles. He wins 1 title in LA, and your franchise is stuck spinning. So we're talking about the future is down the road. Like, we don't even know if Anthony Davis will still be in a Mavericks uniform in 3 years. That's how much you've mortgaged your future.
Fans are fickle, and winning matters more than anything. Winning cures everything. Fans just want to be a part of a winner. I have never, ever, ever, Doug, found myself in a situation where I asked this question of, if the Mavericks won the title this season, would Mavericks fans think it was worth it? And my answer is no. They'd rather have Luka. They had a real relationship with this kid. Like, he was the guy, and it was going to be all this along the way. If they win 1 title, it's going to feel empty, and they're going to deal with the repercussions thereafter. Like, not winning a title isn't enough. That's how badly you screwed up.
Yeah, I'll end this segment with something that is beginning the latest episode of Locked On Mavericks from Nick Angstadt, where he said the Mavericks went from an era where a superstar would not give up on the franchise in Dirk Nowitzki into an era where the franchise has now given up on their superstar. It's a huge contrast, and we will continue to talk about it and all of the implications coming up here on Locked On NBA. I want to go into some of the basketball of this to talk about the pairing of AD and Kyrie for the rest of the season, what Luka and LeBron can do together to finish out this season. We'll talk about that more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Game Time. Are you looking for tickets to your next big event? Maybe it's the debut of Luka in LA. Maybe it's the debut of AD in Dallas. Whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so that you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I don't like that. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat, and I couldn't believe the value. It was a steal. I loved it. The seat view feature is a game changer as well. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat will look like in the venue. It's so reassuring. I used this the first time that I took my daughter to a Hornets game. I wanted to make sure like her view of the court was going to be great, and so seeing that is amazing. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for hanging out with us on this special Sunday edition of Locked On NBA. I'm sure we're going to be covering this story all week long, but let's take a few minutes here to talk about some of the basketball implications of this. First, we'll head back to the Los Angeles Lakers. Do you view this at all as a little bit of a punt on this season and a look towards Luka Doncic as future face of the franchise, or is this a signal of more moves to come? Do you think they're able to add a center to actually make a go of this season, Haize?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are centers out there that are available that kind of make sense for this team. That wouldn't take a whole lot. I think the Atlanta Hawks trying to move Clint Capella, Rui Hachimura makes sense for them due to them losing Jalen Johnson. So I think that could be a path there for maybe them. So I do think that they can add a center to make this make kind of more sense for this season. But I think either way, this is still a more long-term plan on how you're going to build around Luka going forward. And of course, Lakers always kind of try to bet on players wanting to come to LA, wanting to play with their star, and I think they're going to benefit from that in the long term. But I think there are moves to be made for a center at this trade deadline that they could make.
It's just amazing that the Lakers literally were basically unconvinced that they could win a title with LeBron and AD. They feuded with their agency. They keep it being in this back and forth thing, and it was very clear that this team did not believe in LeBron and AD. And the way that should have ended is like, yeah, no, the fans always believe that they could have, and the players believe that they could have, and the front office tries to rebuild afterwards. And instead, they just parlayed it into Luka for the next decade. Like, that's only the Lakers, man. Like, only the Lakers. I think the comments from the Lakers, it's pretty apparent that, yeah, like this is a long-term move, that they're looking at this season and being like, we don't have a championship infrastructure. We don't have that kind of core. LeBron is not that guy. And so now the question is going to be, what can they do over the next 6 months into the off season through the end of, and 6 months from now is August. Like, what can they do to now position the team where it provides a soft landing for LeBron's career while also ramping up in the Luka era? If they want to, yeah, they can go get a center. Like, they can go get Clint Capella right now. For the first rounder, will do it. I don't know if that's going to happen. They're working on Time Lord. I think that they'll look for short-term options that are cheap, but they're going to be very careful because honestly, at this point, this is the thing. With their 2031 first, Doug, like, why would you trade it when you can just expect that the Bucks will give you Giannis for one pick and Rui Hachimura. That's what the Lakers now have to expect from everyone because of what Nico Harrison did.
Just wait for the call. That's all you have to do. All right, let's flip it over to the Mavericks. Is an AD Kyrie pairing enough to do damage in the West this season? Once AD gets back, right? We don't know how long he's going to be out with this abdominal injury. The Mavericks are facing multiple injuries in their front court that AD will have to feel. I don't think AD's gonna get his wish not to play 5 necessarily, at least for a little bit. What do you think about the AD Kyrie pairing in Dallas, Matt?
I actually think he's not going to have to play 5, right? Because I think this probably changes your equation on what you want to do with Gafford. Maybe you trade Gafford and add another like a stretch 5 weapon. Like now Vooch makes a lot of sense, right? Like if you trade, because I talked about in the show that I'd heard that the Bulls had conversations with the Mavericks about Gafford for Vucevic. And it was kind of like, that's kind of like a weird, I guess it gives you like an alternative. Now this makes like a lot more sense, right? Because it's like, oh, they called about that because they can pair a stretch 5 and Vucevic, who's also a big that can play drop, with Anthony Davis. And you can also then play, without Davis, you can play 5 out. Like that makes a lot more sense now. Kyrie really struggled in the playoffs last year. He had some spectacular moments, but he also had, as the series went on, he really struggled with conference finals and finals. So I'm not sure he's there where the Mavericks think he is. And AD, look, AD, Gafford, Lively. AD Lively is going to be a menace. This is already the second best rim protection team in the league, and now they're better. Like this is going to be a monster defense to have to deal with. But Haize, like their entire team was built around Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. So now they got to transition and figure out how to produce points. They can't score. They do not have the weapons to score here because they were built around something that no longer exists.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit more favorable by just a hair than you are. I think that they may be set up, unless the Lakers make a move for a center, that the Mavs may be set up to be better the remainder of this season if AD can stay healthy and everybody can stay healthy, just because of that defense, because of having Gafford, and if Lively comes back and you have them and AD on that front line. We've seen what front line defense and AD being able to go back to kind of being more of a roamer and things like that. I think that they could still be really good for the remainder of this season. But if your goal is winning a title, as Nico Harrison has said, or anything, you think you're going to fall short of that for sure. But I do think that this can be a fun team and a team that could surprise some teams as well for the remaining part. They just got to get AD healthy. If AD is going to be healthy more games than not to finish the season, I'm not hating the roster that they have here.
Did they do this just to upset Oklahoma City in the first round? Was that the whole motivation behind this, Matt?
I said this on Twitter, like Sam Presti just has to be livid. Just has to be livid, being like, you sent Luka to the Lakers, you didn't call me, and you put AD, the biggest matchup problem we have, on the Mavericks. Like that's going to be just absolutely infuriating. So yeah, like it's that's going to be a tough one, I think, for OKC. But again, I just ask you, how are they going to score, man? How are they going to score?
Let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. We'll have much more this week on this deal and possibly a Jimmy Butler deal. We'll see if anything happens with that. A lot more deals to come. It's I think the groundhog saw its shadow, so that's 6 more weeks of trade deadline, I think. So we'll be here to cover it all. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Thank you to Matt and Haize for jumping on with me on a Sunday to share their expertise. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other. And we're going to see you right back here on Mondays, Locked On NBA.